On this episode, a lot has happened since the last episode on Thursday last week. We have indictments, we have a terrorist attack, tax reform was unveiled today, and so we're going to talk a little bit about all those, and also we're going to speak with Texas Representative Jeff Leach. All this on this episode of Trend Chat. Welcome everybody to one more episode of Trend Chat. I'm your host, Brian Bledsoe. And if you want to connect with us, whether on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, it's all the same name, Trend Chat 24/7. Almost forgot. And if you want to read some of my articles on Politics, just go to politics.com/author/Brian Bledsoe. Now, I said like one more episode of Trend Chat, like this is the last one or something. I don't even know why I said it that way, but no, it's not. I guess it's the last one for this week, but yeah, it's just another great top-notch episode of Trend Chat coming up. Like I said, we're going to talk with Texas Representative Jeff Leach, and just gonna, like I said, we're just gonna touch on everything that's kind of been going on, and because there's been a lot since I noticed when we did the episode on last Thursday, I was like, by the time this Thursday come around, because obviously we didn't do a show on Tuesday, and I was like, a lot is going on, and then knowing that tax reform is going to be unveiled today, and I was like, wow. But it's not like I'm going to go on a long rant about it. I said it kind of thinking I might, but I guess I just go on the thing I know I'm not going to talk much about because it's still ongoing, which is those indictments due to the Mueller investigation. And so you had Paul Manafort and I forgot his name, last name Gates, but there was two people who indicted on Monday, and then turned to find out that what they are indicting Manafort on is things that were years before joining the Trump campaign. Now, if you don't know, Paul Manafort was the Trump campaign advisor. And so, yeah, the charges, I guess, that he's been brought up on is for things that was in, I think, 2014. And like I said, this is an ongoing investigation. Actually, there's another person that was that was brought up on Monday as well that actually didn't get as much attention, but probably is more important or could be more damaging to the president, is this Papadopoulos. I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to even try to say his name, but I said, no, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it here and let y'all hear me butcher his name. But yeah, and so he was a worker with the campaign as well, and good old Pop, I'm just gonna call him Pop, and Pop went on saying that he can get a meeting with the Russians, and saying that, trying to see if he can, I guess, curry favor with the campaign, if he can swing that. So now that is also ongoing as well. And wouldn't be surprised this investigation goes on for another year or two. I wouldn't be surprised. But on the other hand, maybe not, because like I was mentioning about Manafort, there are some Democrat ties in here as well. And even with that, even the dossier business and having Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, sending the money to this Fusion GPS, and like they're connected in all of this. So, and on one hand, this might go on for a long time. Then, on the other hand, maybe not. Because if they keep uncovering more things in this investigation that start pointing towards some liberals or some Democrats after so long, you might start hearing, this whole collusion investigation, it's not really as big of a deal as we said it was. I think we're just gonna back off and let President Trump just do his job. But we'll just try again in 2020. Because you start getting more of these Democrats and liberals out here and start showing what they've been doing in connection with all of this, and start uncovering their dealings. Yeah, this investigation might end next week if it keeps going too far. Because, it's not like they're going to, if they keep uncovering people on their side. And when I say their side, I'm talking about the media as well, because the media definitely is not talking about those Democrat connections. And if they are, they're underreporting it. They just want to highlight everything's about Trump or about the Trump campaign or whatnot. And so I'm seeing that they may just maybe just back off on this whole thing because they getting too many skeletons out of the closet on the Democrat side. So they might just you know what? Let's just ease off of this whole collusion thing right now. But like I said, I can definitely see that happening, because it's not like they're going to want to sacrifice themselves just to get Trump impeached or whatever they're trying to get, whatever it is to happen to President Trump. If it start getting too hot for them and start, uncovering some shady deals with those liberals, they be like, well, the question then becomes, are you going to sacrifice yourself for the chance, because it's not a certainty, for the chance that you go down in flames and Donald Trump goes along with you? That's the question that someone would have if you have a liberal, like a powerful liberal or Democrat, something, even like Hillary Clinton, they just go with her. If something was damaging to her, would you risk just sacrificing yourself for that chance? How much do you really hate President Trump? Do you hate him so much that you'll sacrifice yourself? Some liberals will say, hey, you ought to do it for the greater good there, soldier. I can see, hey, do it for your country. And I'm pretty sure they'll probably turn around like, no, that's all right. Let's just go and back off this whole investigation. We'll find something else. So anyway, that was just a thought I was thinking about as far as all this investigation. Who knows? By next week, you might hear what, case is closed. Now, so with those indictments, now you had later on this week, and then you had another, you could basically say a terrorist attack, because in what we found out so far about the guy who drove this Home Depot truck in New York City, and basically was a terrorist attack. And what we're finding out now, that one thing in particular, he said that he wanted an ISIS flag in his hospital room. So okay, so yeah, we can just go and call it a terrorist attack. And just to show, just like clockwork, these same liberals and Democrats I'm talking about come around, with the instant reply, just the instant defense. This is one man. Don't try to lump all Muslims with this one man just because of his, horrendous action. And that is such hypocrisy, because back when the Las Vegas shooter, when that happened, that was all gun owners. That one man represented all gun owners according to liberals. Now all of a sudden, but this one guy, he doesn't represent all Muslims. How about we just stop doing that across the board? Can we just stop doing that? Can we quit trying to lump everybody in a group because of one person's actions? And I'm saying that as far as even for Muslims, or even for, like, on the other side, as far as if like what happened in Las Vegas, or anybody. Let's just stop doing it all together. Can we do that at least? I mean, I know I'm talking to me, to myself here, but just saying, can we just stop that whole double standard that we basically have accepted on one side or the other? So, but yeah, so now he's in the hospital and, going through, you're going to have his trial and all that. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be more after, in the next month or years, actually, about this guy. Now, before I get to talking about tax reform, I was going to just go straight into that. But I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's hold off for a second. Let's hear from my friends with the Founding Project.
Hello, Trend Chat listeners. If you like the Founding Project's Civics Education video series, Civics for All Ages, and our educational meme series, we think you will love our new website. Join us at thefoundingproject.com and be a part of the civics movement. The Founding Project is a 501c3 education nonprofit. Please join us today.
Well, hey, tax reform was unveiled today. The GOP plan for tax reform. And hey, I don't know how many of you have seen, whether it's the whole bill or if you read some articles or even watched the press conference with President Trump talking about it earlier today. But hey, I want to say, like, yay, okay. I mean, obviously we have to go through the process, the legislative process, and going through the House and Senate and, all that. And I can't say I don't like the plan. I do like the plan. Definitely I can see some improvements that could be made. One being, taking away the Obamacare tax penalty in there. That should be in there. And, I mean, as far as just taxes in general, we can, like kind of going into the taxation itself and all that. But this is a good step in the right direction, put it that way. One thing I did notice is that, they want to create 4 brackets. So 12, 25, 35, and 39.6. I did that off the top of my head, man. And I might be wrong, so double check that. But one thing I did notice is that the last one did not change. The 39.6, that's for the, top 1%. I guess top 1%, but it's the top bracket. It's 39.6%. And that didn't go down at all. Now, I'm pretty sure most people are going to hear that and not going to care. They're like, well, we don't care about the rich. I'm not rich, so why should I care about them not getting a tax break? Hey, I'm not rich either. I'm not in that tax bracket, nowhere near it. But I still would like people to keep more of their money, regardless if you're poor or rich. And so that's why I was saying, like, well, it seemed like one bracket did not get a tax cut. So that's just, how I feel about it. I feel like everybody should get a tax cut. I don't care who you are, as I just mentioned. But the thing about all of this is that I'm pretty skeptical in what's going to happen. I mean, we just got off of this whole Obamacare debacle that didn't go anywhere. So why would I be so confident that this is going to go well? I know President Trump mentioned in his press conference today that this would be passed by Christmas. I mean, that was kind of the same rhetoric as far as talking about getting Obamacare repealed. So, call me skeptical that I'm just not like, oh, yes, this is going to happen, because Congress has not shown, haven't given anyone any confidence that anything will get done. So I'm in a wait and see. And even with what's on this bill now, which, like I said, I like what's in the bill. But now this got to go through the committees and get basically negotiated through Congress. And I'm not confident that they're going to water down what's presented today. I feel that it will be, there's a better chance that this will be watered down than strengthened. Than the plan to made better by kind of like what I mentioned about the Obamacare penalties being in the plan and taking out those taxes, and maybe some more cuts. Like the corporate rate, according to the plan, they wanted to bring it down to 20%, and I wouldn't be surprised that things get worse with this plan as opposed to getting better. So I'm pessimistic, and I feel like I should be pessimistic given what has been going on the past year. Why would I feel like, oh yeah, Congress got this, yeah, Republicans going to, do the right thing, they're going to do what they said they're going to do? Well, they haven't been doing it. For the most part. I mean, I can't say that across the board, but they've definitely failed on some big ticket issues like Obamacare and immigration, as far as what to do with illegal immigration and dealing with whatever they're going to do with the wall, even though prototypes are getting built and all of that. I guess we'll see where we're going to go. I guess that's going to be next year now. I guess the whole focus this year is going to be on this tax reform deal, and yeah. So I guess to kind of transition a little bit when talking about Congress, because this week we also had, other congressmen announcing that they're not seeking re-election. You had Jeff Leach out of Texas saying he announced that he's not going to seek re-election next year. So, this is going to, I'm not a historian. I mean, I hate to break it to y'all. I know y'all's probably like, man, this guy's, he's a history geek. No, I'm not. I am not a historian. I am a truck driver talking to a microphone right now. But next year seems like it's going to be pretty interesting as far as how many people are not running for re-election. And the primary season next year, it seems like it's going to be like just full across the country and not even nationwide. And kind of like what I mentioned in our interview with Representative Jeff Leach. I mean, statewide as well. I mean, here in Texas, then we have Texas House Speaker Joe Strauss not seeking re-election, and others like Byron Cook as well. And it seems like this is like going across nationwide, statewide, and these primaries are going to be something to watch next year. So So in saying that, let's get to our interview with Representative Jeff Leach. But before that, we're going to hear another word from my friends with the Founder Project. And right after that, we'll play our interview with Texas Representative Jeff Leach.
Hello to fans of Trend Chat and Brian Bledsoe. The Founding Project, an education nonprofit dedicated to civics, invites you to visit our brand new website. Visit us at thefoundingproject.com. Be a part of the civics movement with The Founding Project. The Founding Project is a 501c3 education nonprofit. Please join us today.
Hello, welcome to Trend Chat. And it seems like 2018 is going to be a pretty interesting year, especially among the Republican primary, with members not seeking to be reelected, even nationwide, but also statewide as well, because Texas House Speaker Joe Straus has announced a little over a week ago that he's not going to seek reelection. And just wanted to get some thoughts from people in the House, and just glad that we have Representative Jeff Leach with us. How are you doing?
I'm great. How you doing today?
All right. And I guess first question is, now that we know that Speaker Straus will not be returning, just wanted to ask you, what do you think of the Speaker's race so far, and what are you looking for in a Speaker?
Well, as you know, Speaker Straus has just finished serving his fifth consecutive term as Speaker, and has announced he's not running for re-election. And look, I think this gives Republicans, certainly conservatives, a great opportunity in the Texas House to select a leader that will ensure that the voice of the people of Texas and that the priorities that we've all campaigned on, the promises that we've made to the people that have supported us across this state, that those priorities are get their time of day on the floor of the Texas House. My main concern with Speaker Straus and his leadership team over the past few sessions has been their inclination to kill conservative priorities, whether it's property tax reform or school choice or certain pro-life measures or the Texas Privacy Act and many others, to kill those before they get due consideration on the floor of the Texas House. So I think it's a great day. Now it's like halftime in a football game. We're winning so far. We've achieved a change in House leadership, but we've got to make sure now that we select the right person. And I'm committed to working to do just that in advance of next session.
Now, so far we only have two that have announced. Are you looking just as those two, or waiting for others to announce?
I imagine by the time it's all said and done, by January of 2019, there will be several, maybe in upwards of 10 representatives that announce and run for Speaker. And, you know, I look forward to sitting down with each one of them and hearing their ideas, their vision for the House. My goal and my priority is to ensure that the Speaker, really it's a servant leadership position. The Speaker is elected to serve all 149 members of the House to ensure that they can represent their districts, do their job, that he puts the right people with the right skill sets and talents and experience in the right spots in the House. And, you know, like I mentioned, the main priority of the Speaker should be to ensure not that his agenda is rammed through, but that the voice of the people of Texas is heard loud and clear on the floor of the Texas House. And so whatever candidate runs or ultimately wins, I hope that will be that it will be loud and clear to the people of Texas in January that we're committed to doing just that. There
was a retreat a little over a month ago. Were there any, I guess, inclination that he may not be returning?
You know, I've learned in this business that in politics that, you know, you never predict, never prognosticate, never believe in rumors or innuendo or hints or gossip, but just to keep your head down and to do your job and representing your district. Certainly I heard chatter that he was not going to return for a while, but he had said publicly that he was going to return. And look, I think he did the right thing in going back to his district, spending time with his constituents and his family. And, you know, I'm certainly thankful for his service, but I look forward to electing a more conservative Speaker.
Well, I heard you mention as far as how, I guess, conservative legislation being stifled, you know, not being able to even get to the floor. Now, you were a member of the Economic and Business Development Committee. Now, was there anything in that committee that kind of was an example of what you were mentioning?
Not necessarily on that committee, although we did have some really strong anti-union legislation that we considered in our committee that we actually voted out of committee, and then it died in the calendars committee before it reached the floor of the Texas House. So that was a concern. But if you look across the broad spectrum of all of the committees, the legislation that was considered, we had substantial property tax reforms, the pro-life bills, of course, the Texas Privacy Act, school choice, all of these bills that are not just supported by a thin majority of Republicans, but a wide majority of Republican voters support these pieces of legislation and these issues. And we have 95 Republicans in the Texas House, and most, if not all, of the Republican representatives I know in the House campaigned on these issues and committed to the people that they would fight for these issues. And yet we had a struggle getting them to the floor, largely because of House leadership and because of the mismanagement of the calendar. So we've got to do better. And a large piece of that is who we select as our leader and our leadership to guide us next session.
That was kind of something that just came to the top of my head. I was just kind of wondering. Now, as far as the committee in general, I mean, how would you rate as far as what was or wasn't accomplished during the regular session, well, special as well?
I would give the Senate an A+, and I'd give the House a C-. If you're asking me to give grades, maybe even a D for the House. I mean, look, if you compare the Senate and the House, let's look specifically at the special session. And there were 20 items that the governor put on the call. Many of those items, school choice legislation for special needs children, the Texas Privacy Act, pro-life legislation that would cut down on state and local government spending, legislation that would substantially cut and reform property taxes. All of that legislation was passed out of the Senate within a matter of days. Most of that legislation did not even ever reach the House floor for consideration. So if we're grading in terms of where conservative priorities were heard loud and clear and got a vote in the light of day, the Senate gets an A+, and we might get a failing grade in the Texas House.
Yeah, there definitely was a frustration to see that happen. Even just watching from afar. So I'm guessing being on the floor, that could be very frustrating as well.
Right.
Now, you're the policy director for the Texas Freedom Caucus, which I am a fan of. I definitely appreciate everything that the Texas Freedom Caucus is doing. And I just want to ask you, have you all discussed any, policies to focus on for next session?
Well, it was an honor to be a part of the Freedom Caucus this session. We haven't yet started discussing as a group our priorities for next session. Of course, we're all back home in our districts, meeting with our constituents, listening to feedback from within our districts, listening to those that agreed with what we did and those that disagreed, and making sure that we do as effective a job as we can at representing our respective districts and fighting for conservative legislation. We will, early next year in 2018, start to plan for the next session. One thing we have been working on, as with other Republican members outside of the Freedom Caucus, is a process by which we select our speaker candidate within the Republican caucus. In past sessions, one of the reasons that Speaker Strauss was able to hold on to power so long and how he initially got elected was with strong Democrat support. And what we're going to try to do in advance of next session is, no matter how many Republican candidates we have running for speaker, is all agree within our caucus, 95 members or however many we have, 90 to 100, that we will all agree to select our Republican nominee for speaker within our caucus and then unite and all support that person on the floor of the Texas House. And the Freedom Caucus, as well as with other conservative Republicans, has been on the forefront of establishing a process to do that. And in fact, we're meeting in Austin on December 1st to consider bylaw changes to our caucus to do just that. And so I look forward to that meeting. Well,
that would be a welcome change if that happened.
Well, the strong majority of Republican leaders, grassroots leaders, and voters from across this state want us to do that. It's been in the Republican platform for a long time. I think somewhere around 90%, maybe 95% of Republican voters want us to do that. And for some reason, we haven't been able to over the past few sessions, but we are committed to a broad spectrum of Republicans, conservatives, moderates, and look, even some liberal Republicans are saying, look, we need to select our speaker candidate in our caucus to have that fight, if you will, in our family, and then to unite as Republicans on the floor of the Texas House around one person. I think that's the goal for January 2019.
something just came to mind. I just want to ask you, when it comes to the speaker, how would you feel about the speaker as far as upholding the platform?
Well, look, I think every Republican member, whether you're the speaker or the chair of state affairs, or whether you're the dog catcher or the guy who rides the bench and the sideline for much of session, whatever you are, you should be committed to Republican principles. You certainly should be committed to the principles and the priorities and the promises upon which you campaigned on. One of the big problems with politics today, Republicans and Democrats, is that we've got elected leaders who are not keeping their promises to the people that sent them to, whether it's Austin or Washington, D.C., or to our local school boards and city councils and commissioners' courts. Our job is to do what we said we would do when we ran for office, and I'm convinced that when Joe Strauss ran for office and a number of other Republican members, that we campaigned on lowering taxes, keeping government small, protecting individual freedoms, safeguarding our fundamental constitutional rights, fighting for the sanctity of life. That's what our voters expect us to do. And if we go to auction and we don't do those things, then our voters ought to hold us accountable.
And obviously, being a House rep every 2 years, you're having to run again. And so for you, how's everything with the campaign as far as, whether it's a primary or general?
Well, I'm very encouraged by the feedback we've been getting from our district. I represent a very conservative district, a district that's growing. The business community is strong here. It's a great place to live and work and play in District 67. And I feel like I've done a good job representing their district. Representing my district, I'll tell you this, going back to my last point, the answer to your last question, I can come home with confidence from Austin and look my voters in the eye and say that I kept my promises, that I did what I said I was going to do, that I rolled up my sleeves and went to fight for them and their families. Doesn't mean we have to agree on every single issue, the minutiae of every single piece of legislation, but I can, with confidence, come back home and say that I kept my word. And because of that, we don't have a Republican primary opponent at this point. We're encouraged by the feedback we've been getting, and the liberal Democrats are out to get me. And when the liberal Democrats are out to get you and take you down, that means you're doing something right.
Well, how can everyone get in touch with you as far as if they want to help out with your campaign, and how they can reach you on social media and everywhere else?
Well, sure. You can go to my website at jeffleach.com. That's JEFFLEACH.com. You can go to my Facebook page, just Jeff Leach. My Twitter handle is Leach for Texas. Look, if any of your listeners live in my district, I always encourage you to reach out to me. I have a 100% meeting policy, whether you live in my district or not. So if anyone ever wants to chat or meet up or talk about policies or issues or questions, I'm an open book, and I have an open door. And so it's an honor to serve the people of Texas, the people of District 67, and it's great talking to you today. And I look forward to working to not just protect what we've built here in Texas as Republicans and as conservatives, but to build upon it and to strengthen it and to grow it. And it's good people like you and your listeners who are helping us do just that.
Well, thanks, and thank you, Representative Leach, for joining us. And I just want to say, even if whether you agree or disagree, at least the fact that like you said, that you can go back and say that, hey, I did what said I was going to do, whether you disagree or not. At the very least, you need to know the person is honest enough to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and you did it. And you can at least have a clean conscience in doing that. So I appreciate everything you're doing. Right. Yeah, I appreciate everything you're doing, and I definitely appreciate what the Texas Freedom Caucus is doing and all that. And again, just thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you. God bless, and have a great day.
Yep, and thanks to Representative Leach for joining us. And I was just, I guess I'm kind of just reiterating what I just said in that interview, but if someone said that what they're going to do and they actually did it, even if you don't agree with their policies, or even if you don't agree with how they implement those policies when they get in Congress, someone like Bernie Sanders, I totally disagree with Bernie Sanders pretty much on everything, probably. But the fact that he would at least admit what he wants to do, that he wants to raise your taxes, that he wants to take from the rich and all that. At least he's saying that, and then he's going out and doing it. You know, it's not like he's saying one thing and doing another. As far as policy goes, I'm saying. So, and even with someone that I agree with, you know, that's a great thing to have, a clear conscience, as opposed to clean conscience, as I mentioned in the interview. But yeah, that is refreshing to have someone to do that. Because if you have someone that you disagree with, like, well, I disagree with everything he said, but at least I know, at least he said what he was going to do, and you know, he or she did it. So anyway, just basically repeated the same point. I just wanted to say it again. But thank you. Thanks to everyone that has been listening. And you know what? One day, I've been thinking about this. One day we're going to bring our producer of Trend Chat. We're going to bring the producer in, and we're going to basically have a little interview with the producer of Trend Chat. I don't know when it's going to happen. It might be next week. Could be a month. Could be next year. Who knows? I mean, he's very busy. So, yeah, you know, if I get a chance to get him on, I mean, he's busy producing the show and getting the guests and all that. So, when I can get the time, maybe, you know, a couple of minutes, we might do an interview so y'all can hear about the behind the scenes of Trend Chat. Yeah, that could, like I said, don't know when it's gonna happen, but it's just something that we've thought of as a team between me and the producer. So, again, thank you for everyone that's been listening. Like I said, we're on Google Play, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, as they call it now, and iHeartRadio. And if you want to connect with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Trend Chat 24/7, all the same. And yeah, thanks for joining us. And until next week, we will chat with you later.